Hello. Welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. On today's episode of the Prime, I'm going to be recapping the 2025 NFL Draft. Oh, man, I never updated the graphics. Give me a second. I hate when stuff like that happens. It really grinds my gears. Fix it over here. I just didn't on this one. All right, that's cool. Oh, but yeah, 2025 NFL Draft is in the books. We wrapped up on Saturday. Let me see how many players are actually drafted. Uh, 257 athletes had their dreams come true, being drafted into the National Football League. And a big congratulations to every single player who had their name called, and any player that signed an undrafted free agent contract after the NFL draft. It's still an accomplishment to making the league, no matter how you get there. So congratulations to every single person that is going to be able to have the opportunity to play in the National Football League, a dream that many of them thought when they were kids. They dreamed of that moment, hearing their names called by Roger Goodell or whoever was probably reading the names in the NFL draft. So kudos to all of you involved. So yeah, you all have accomplished something that most people could only dream of. Hold on a second. And then another shout out, just our thoughts and prayers out to the family and friends of Derek Harmon. A few hours after he was a first round pick of the Pittsburgh Steelers, his mother tragically passed away. So, just thoughts out to Derek Harmon. You achieved that goal. Your mother got you to the finish line. It's up to you now to see what you do with that opportunity to play in the National Football League. Just thoughts out to him, though, because you never want to see you lose a parent, especially in a moment where you have this ultimate moment of joy, kind of hindered a little bit by that ultimate tragedy of losing a parent. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me here at Prime Sports World. My name is David On Point Huppin. I'm going to give you my full recap of the 2025 NFL Draft. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast as we bring you pretty regularly content here at Prime Sports World, including tomorrow. We're going to swing back into our UFL coverage, give you a full recap of week number 5, and give you our previews for week number 6 as the Memphis Showboats got off the snide as they beat the Birmingham Stallions on Friday night. So kudos to every single team now in the UFL and has at least one victory. So good to see that over there. But yeah, swinging back over into the National Football League, let's talk about the draft and let's talk about winners. And of course, we have to have some losers. Let's first start with what I think is probably a pretty notable loser. Is the unfortunate fall of Shedeur Sanders. For whatever reason that did happen, whether that be pre-draft interviews, concerns about his arm strength, his quote-unquote, I'm being unprepared for said interviews. It's just unfortunate to see a guy who was a consensus first-round pick fall all the way into the 5th round. It felt like there was something negligible going on on the behalf of the National Football League, that they wanted to make kind of a statement about Shedeur Sanders. He is not a 5th-round pick. He should have been somewhere in the 1st or 2nd round. I think when I did my most recent mock draft, I had him at the back end of the 1st round. And now, you get to go to Cleveland, you get an opportunity. There's going to be an opportunity there for him in Cleveland to have a starting quarterback job and play in the National Football League. I mean, they have 5 quarterbacks on that team. I can't imagine all 5 of them are going to make the active roster. They took Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round, and then a really head-scratching decision to take Shedeur Sanders in the 5th. I mean, if you wanted Shedeur Sanders, I don't know, just like a strange and the conversations that have come out since the draft about Shedeur Sanders, how come none of this stuff was really coming out before the draft process? It just has a very weird feel to it. And that's just my honest opinion about it. So yeah, I consider him a draft loser. I know he's going to be okay in the long run, but the difference with money wise, not that Shedeur Sanders is going to be hurting for money. His dad is Deion Sanders, but you want to make your own wealth. The difference between a 1st round pick and a 5th round pick money wise is pretty substantial. So just the thoughts out to him, and just take this as a chip on his shoulder. Kid, do use this opportunity to build and grow, and take the NFL kind of by storm. Another winner and technically a loser is the National Football League, at least in the 2nd or 3rd days. At least in the second and third days of the NFL draft. Most people kind of check out when it comes to the second and third rounds, second and third days of the NFL draft. We got rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. But there was so much intrigue about where Shedeur Sanders was going to go that like viewing ratings and viewership of the national of those like final, especially the third day, round 4, 5, and 6, they set records for like the intent of watching the NFL draft on the third day on round 4, 5, 6, and 7 because there was just so much intrigue about where Shedeur Sanders was going to eventually end up. And the NFL, yes, they're a winner in the fact that they had viewership, and I just feel like they were also a loser. It feels like there was like collusion going on. Feels like there was just something a little bit dirty about what happened to Shedeur Sanders at the NFL draft. And maybe I'm alone in here. Maybe I'm the only one who feels this way. But it just felt like something was not on the up and up when it comes to the conversation around Shedeur Sanders and the way the NFL handled his coming into the National Football League. By the way, I'll apologize a little bit for my voice. I went to go see a rock concert last night. I went to go see Asking Alexandria and From Ashes to New, which was a fantastic show at the Clyde. But I did a lot of singing and screaming, so my voice isn't at peak performance right now. And then staying into just draft stuff as a whole, the 2025 quarterback class as a whole. I mean, you had two quarterbacks go in the first 2 rounds. And then you had Tyler Shuck going in the third round, who was a relatively unknown when he was taken in the third round. At least most of the draft day process. But yeah, he's 6'5". He's got the prototypical size, prototypical arm strength. He might have the strongest arm in this draft. Hold on. And then, yeah, you didn't see another quarterback go until I think Dillon Gabriel went. I know Jalen Milroe went somewhere in there, but it just this quarterback class in the 2025 was not nearly as strong as it was last season. I mean, last season we saw 6 quarterbacks go into the top. The top 15 picks. In this one, we only saw 1 go, 1 overall, and then there was a massive gap between who was. The other thing that stresses my head about the Dillon Gabriel thing, like the Cleveland Browns had to trade up to get Dillon Gabriel, and then they still it was just a really head scratching decision. So yeah, Riley. So it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 quarterbacks are drafted in this NFL draft. With Riley Leonard, I think being the final pick, he went to the Indianapolis Colts out of Notre Dame. I don't think any of these other guys got drafted. I apologize if you did. Brady Cook might have gotten drafted. I don't really remember. But it just didn't seem like there was the cachet around this particular class as there was the class before or even 2 years ago. And probably not the cachet that the draft class next year is going to have. We'll really kind of expect, the kid from Clemson to go early, Arch Manning to go pretty early. The kid from Pace. The cat's here. The kid from Arizona State to go pretty early. The kid from, hold on. I was just watching him. Drew Alar, the kid from Penn State. I think that's the only one I'm missing. And then the kid from LSU, was it Mettenberger? Nussmeier, Garrett Nussmeier. And then there also possibly the Norris Sellers, the kid from South Carolina, can also probably go in the first round next season. And then the kid who's also now at UCLA, Nico, I'm not sure how to pronounce that last name, so I'm not going to try. But yeah, Sam Levitt could potentially. Carson Beck, who had potential first round pick buzz on him last season, but he didn't play well at Georgia. He's now at Miami. So yeah, I think this is going to be a lot more conversation, a lot more buzz around the draft class next season than there was in this particular draft class. And so that's 25 quarterback class. It's also kind of a loser for me. Let's get the negative stuff out of the way first before we necessarily get to the negatives, the positives, because this is a positive Pete show here at Prime Sports World, and we try to leave people in a good place. So let's talk about some losers, then we'll do the winners. Usually we do it the other way around, but this is not the day. Let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons. I liked the pick of Jalen Walker. I do think he's kind of a steal where they got him. First round, pick 15. I think where things start to fall apart is trading back into the first round. You give up a first round pick next season. And while James Pierce Jr. On talent wise is like a top 5 talent player in this draft, there are some other stuff going on with him that seem to kind of like leave you scratch your head a little bit off the field stuff. But to give up a first round pick next year, and I think like a haul basically in order to trade up and get him. And yes, they should be 2 guys that are eventually are going to be able to help them. But I just don't really like the fact that they gave up extra future draft assets to move back into this first round. And I think that's not a good decision. Like, that's not good. I think you keeping those draft assets is because you had other trades that happened or like that didn't require them to give up first round pick, and they could have easily given up their second. And they ended up having to give up their second in this draft in order to make this trade. I just don't like that as a trade value. If TJ were on the show right now, he'd tell me that's kind of what the going rate is, but I just don't agree with that take at all. I do like Xavier Watts. I think he's going to be a pretty good, solid, good safety. But they have safeties there. Taking 2 of them back to back. Well, Jesse Bates III is still on your roster. Doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Jack Nelson, offensive tackle out of Wisconsin, just an absolute flyer. If he ends up being something great, if not, he might not even make the actual NFL roster. I don't think the Falcons did a good job by trading for James Pierce Jr. And Jalen Walker may be a fantastic football player. You have to keep him in the state of Georgia. And I think he's solid value at number 15. The first round pick next year in order to trade back into the first round doesn't make a lick of sense to me. I can't get, that's not a decision I can get behind. And then for the San Francisco 49ers, Mikael Williams is fine, but I just don't think they were good values. And played with Alfred Collins as well, who was also their second round pick out of the defensive tackle out of Texas. And the fact that they didn't take an offensive tackle or an offensive lineman in this draft at all just leaves me really head scratching because Trent Williams is not going to be there forever. I mean, they did take a Connor Colby, a guard out of Iowa. Mikael Williams, he's not. I don't think he's an edge rusher. Like I think he's more of like an every down. I know they need to replace Trey Greenlaw, so I guess it kind of makes sense. But I would have. Nick Barton is a fine football player too. The kid from Western Kentucky is an interesting pick in the 3rd round. Mikael Williams, I think, was way too early. I feel like he was a super reach. I think in my most recent mock draft, I had him somewhere in the 20s. And I talk about this a lot here on this show. I mean, if that's the guy that is your guy and that's the guy you're going to take, you kind of have to take them where they're available. You can't necessarily try to manipulate the draft board to try to get that guy later, earlier, based on where you think he's going to go, because he might not be there in the 2nd round. He might not be there for your next pick. Like if that's the guy you have is part of that's the guy you're targeting. That's the guy you want to be part of your football team. Do it. But I think there were better football players. I think there were better edge rushers, specifically, than Mikael Williams, where they took him in the 1st round. And that's just my honest take on it. That's actually all the losers that I have when it comes to this NFL draft. So recapping real quick, I got the losers. I got the Falcons, 49ers, Shedeur Sanders, 2025 quarterback class, and then the NFL as a whole. Just with the way that it feels like they've handled that Shedeur Sanders situation. And you may totally disagree with me. That's fine. It's your prerogative. And then let's swing into the winners. Let's talk about some individual players before we get into individual teams. Let's first start with Drake May. If you're Drake May, you got to feel really good about the way that this draft unfolded for the New England Patriots. And I don't have them necessarily as a winner, but I mean, they probably are. But your first 4 picks in this draft, 1 first rounder, 2nd rounder, 2 third rounders, all on the offensive side of the ball. Will Campbell, the best offensive tackle, even if he's a Pro Bowl level guard, he's still an upgrade at that offensive line. Travion Henderson, fantastic running back, can be a really good complement to Ramondre Stevenson, who's already on the roster. Kyle Williams, Washington State wide receiver, and then you got Jared Wilson, the center out of Georgia, SEC play. Then they addressed their defense later in the draft. But I mean, for their first 4 picks to all be on the offensive side of the ball, if you're Drake May, you got to be like, yeah, this is a team that's kind of they're caring about me. They're putting me And a lot of people that Kyle Williams pick have him very high on their big, like he was a much better prospect than the 69th overall pick in this upcoming draft. And he is an absolute flyer. Like the dude is just lightning. But you build up this offensive line, you build up your defense, you give some weapons for Drake May. And that's good. I mean, if you're Drake May, you got to feel like you're an absolute winner there. And then Maxwell Harrison, he's a corner and ends up getting drafted by the Buffalo Bills. But if you watched any of the draft, he was probably the most entertaining player on this in the draft there, because he basically celebrated and congratulated every single player that got drafted this weekend, at least in the first round. I didn't get a chance to watch the second round, but he was there congratulating, dabbing up, giving hugs to every single player. And then when it was his turn to be picked, it was just one of those good feel-good moments. And not to mention, he's a good football player. He's going to a situation where they're going to need him to be productive. So he should have an opportunity to be a fantastic corner for the Buffalo Bills. And he's one of my winners. And finally, we got Jordan Love of the Green Bay Packers. If my boy, Mr. Israel Rivera, was here, they go and they take, Matthew Golden, first wide receiver drafted by the Green Bay Packers since like 2002, something crazy like that in the first round, as they take Matthew Golden, an absolute flyer, really crisp route runner, automatically elevates the offense there in Green Bay. And they took three offensive players back to back with Anthony Belton, the offensive tackle out of NC State, and then the Savon Williams, the wide receiver out of TCU. But if you're Jordan Love, you got to be like, yeah, like Aaron Rodgers is there for 15 years, and they never drafted him a wide receiver in the first round. And then bam, you basically get a wide receiver in the first round, and it may not be the best value because I think they had other bigger needs like a corner, given whatever, because they didn't even draft a corner in this draft, or I guess they took Micah Robinson in the 7th round, but that's a flyer. He may not even make the actual roster when it's all said and done. But for Green Bay, I mean, Matthew Golden was there. And for Jordan Love, you got to feel really good about the fact that this team took a wide receiver. They never did that for Aaron Rodgers. So that's a feather in the cap for Jordan Love. All right, the moment you all been waiting for. Let's talk about some teams that I found to be winners of this year's version of the NFL Draft. Let's start with the Baltimore Ravens. I love their first two picks, and that's all I'm really going to talk about in this particular. When I talked about winners and losers, I do think they have some other picks that I do like. I do like Teddy Buchanan, the linebacker out of California. I do like DeJounte Webster, the wide receiver out of Colorado. But their first two picks, I think, is where they really knocked it out of the park. Malachi Starks is a fantastic safety out of Georgia in the SEC. He was really good value, I think, when they got him at round 1, pick 27. Like, he should be, like, he's probably a top 20-ish player, and a lot of people's big board had him in the top 10, just based on talent-wise. And you package him with Kyle Hamilton as your safety duo for the next 10 years. I mean, that is as good as it gets, depending it pans out, which I totally expect Malachi Starks to be a 5 to 10 year starter for the Baltimore Ravens and make a really dynamic duo with Kyle Hamilton. And then I love the Mike Green pick. I mean, that's the 59th overall pick in round 2. Mike Green, a lot of people had him mock draft to in the teens, like 15 to the Indianapolis Colts, 17 to the Cincinnati Bengals. And for them to get him in round 2 and pick 59, that is enormous value for a guy who's a fringe top 20 value. When you talk about this NFL draft. And so, yeah, Mike Green, he's a big winner. Ravens, big winner. I love what the Ravens did and how they manipulated the draft board. As always, it seems, whenever you talk about the Ravens, you always have, and then Emory Jones was a right tackle for LSU, could probably play guard in the National Football League. They just have Ravens constantly just do a great job of doing the draft board right and just getting the players just getting good football players for sure. To my next winner, I got the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's a new era for the Jacksonville Jaguars with Liam Cohen and their new GM. Hold on, let me get that name real quick. Also, if you haven't seen the general man, James Gladstone, the super unhinged press conference that they had when they introduced Travis Hunter, where he's just talking about like in the most. I want somebody to talk to me. I want somebody to talk about me the way that James Gladstone talked about Travis Hunter during that introductory press conference. It was just soundbite after soundbite in that press conference. It was wild. But yeah, I mean, they you got to be bold sometimes, and you got to take an opportunity. And this is kind of a make or break opportunity season for Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. If it's not going to happen this season for Trevor Lawrence, it's probably time to move on. As he's been okay, like as TJ likes to point out, he hasn't been like the end all be all like Jesus Christ of football that people thought he'd be when he was drafted. And so you got to put weapons around him. You got to give him an opportunity to really make this work. And like having him now with Brian Thomas Jr. Is super dynamic and really interesting. And putting Travis Hunter, no matter how you decide to use him, if he's more of a wide receiver or more of a corner, I think he's probably a better corner than wide receiver, or I think he has more career longevity as a corner. But wide receivers get paid more, so take that with a grain of salt. I love just like be aggressive, like take the opportunity. The future is now because you worry about you gave up a first round pick next year. Who cares? If this is a good Jacksonville Jaguar team next season, I mean, you gave up a pick in the teens. It'll suck if this ends up being like a top 10 pick because you're just not any good. You're not any good. Anyways, Trevor Lawrence is not in at quarterback. That would be unfortunate. But if you want to build up this football team and give Trevor Lawrence every opportunity to be successful, which is what we're talking about here, was like really a last shot here. For him to do that. I do like Caleb Ransaw, the safety out of Tulane, the kid from the offensive tackle out of West Virginia, another place of need. Michelle Tootin, the running back out of Virginia Tech, had big-time fumbling issues, but if he can clean that up, he is a fantastic running back, like just stupid fast, lightning fast. So I thought, I think they did a good job of like addressing their major needs. I mean, they got another defensive player in the safety, they got an offensive tackle, wide receiver, and they got a running back. And so you addressed a bunch of your needs in the first couple of rounds. I think you took flyers on other guys that I'm not as interested in or care about. But I love the aggressiveness. I love the hey, we're going to trade for Travis Hunter. We're going to get who many people thought was the best player in this draft. And that's just how that's just how things go sometimes. And I like that decision. Let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, as they seem to be just the home for the SEC and Alabama and Georgia. But Jahad Campbell is one of the more talented football players in this draft. And for him to get him at 31, based on just skill, and I mean, he was like, he came out, he was like an edge rushing prospect, but they have so many edge rushers in Alabama, they moved him to linebacker, and I think he's going to have a productive rookie season, and I think they got him at good value. They also took a safety in the second round out of Texas, defensive tackle out of Nebraska, who's just a big-bodied mover that they need to replace the kid that was really good in the Super Bowl, and they also need to replace Josh Sweat, who's now in Arizona. So I think both of those two moves. They took another linebacker out of Georgia in the 5th round, which is really more of a flyer. Colin McCord, the quarterback out of Syracuse, actually had the most passing yards in college football last season. So Colin McCord, that's a solid pick. I think as a whole, it's hard to go against the Philadelphia Eagles and the way that Howie Roseman has drafted this football team. And Andrew Makuba, the kid out of Texas, replaces CJ Gardner-Johnson, who's no longer on the football team, who's going to play safety. And then you have a really young secondary there with him and Quayon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. And then taking Samuel Moden Jr. I just like the way the Philadelphia Eagles constantly do a great job with their draft. They keep this engine going as they continue to try to be one of the top flight teams in the National Football League. And then to my final winner, which is going to sound super weird to call this team a winner because I'm not a Cowboys fan. I'm not a Jerry Jones fan at all. If TJ was here, he's like, this is real talk. But I loved what they did with their first 3 picks in this draft. Tyler Booker, an automatic day 1 starter. I am concerned. I've seen this joke online, so I'm just going to make it too. They have too many players named Tyler on their offensive line right now. When they got Tyler Smith, and then they got Tyler Guyton, and then they got this guy Tyler Tyler Booker, all at offensive line at various positions on their offensive line. But this Dallas Cowboy team, like when they were really, really good, they were a grinded out, punch you in the mouth football team where they're going to run the football down your throat. And they paid a lot of money for Dak Prescott. You got to protect the asset. So if you have to build up this offensive line in order to do that, I have no problem with the first round. I mean, and people are like, "Oh, it's a reach. They shouldn't have taken him this early." It don't matter. It kind of almost like if you flip Tyler Booker and Donovan Azarico, the kid out of Boston College, the edge, the absolute manimal there. It looks better value-wise because people had a first-round grade on Donovan Azarico. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that last name. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it for sure. Donovan Azarico, yeah. I think, but I just like that guy had a first-round grade, and for them to get him in the back end of the second round, and then Siobhan Ravel Jr., the corner out of East Carolina. I mean, if he doesn't tear his ACL, he's probably he was the number one corner going into the draft process last season and would have been a first round pick last year if he had been eligible to come out. He was that good at the cornerback position. And, he tore that ACL, he got that injury, but hopefully he can make a full recovery. But those 3 picks should all be day one starters on their defense and offense to bolster what could be what could be the best offensive line of football again, which is what the Dallas Cowboys were known for when they were really stout, 5 or 6 years ago. But yeah, I mean, Azarico, Ravel Jr., they have a chance to be impact starters on the defensive side and have upside at the pick that I love what the Dallas Cowboys did with this particular draft. And that's my final winner. As I have my recap here with my winners, I got the Baltimore Ravens, Jacksonville Jaguars, Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Cowboys, Drake May, Maxwell Hairston, Jordan Love, and then the National Football League as a whole. But let me know down in the comments section, what did you think about the NFL draft? What did you think about the situation going on with Shedeur Sanders? What did you think about the way that the NFL draft played out as a whole? I'm interested to see what you got to say down in the comments section. And yeah, thank you very much for joining me. We're going to be swinging back into our UFL coverage tomorrow. So you don't want to miss any of that content. I'm David Huffman, Point Huffman. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Prime Sports World. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And we bring the heat here at Prime Sports World. And now here's a quick message from our sponsor, the Huddle Sports Network. You all have a good night and stay safe out there. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Welcome to the Huddle Sports Network, where we're breaking boundaries and redefining podcasting. Broadcasting live on 6 different platforms, we're bringing you the latest in sports like never before. Imagine tuning into real-time discussions, expert analyses, and fan interactions all at your fingertips. Each platform offers a unique experience, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. We're not just sharing stories, we're creating a community of passionate sports enthusiasts. Join us as we dive deep into the evolution of podcasting, where every episode is a chance to engage, debate, and celebrate the world of sports. This is where your voice matters and the game never stops. Welcome to the Huddle Sports Network, where we're breaking boundaries and redefining podcasting. Broadcasting live on 6 different platforms, we're bringing you the latest in sports like never before, where sports passion meets podcasting brilliance. I'm Mike, the Bear fan, and alongside Bill, the Packer fan, and our buddy Ken Catalone, we're bringing you an incredible lineup of 38 diverse podcasters. Each one brings their unique flavor to the table, covering everything from game analysis to behind-the-scenes stories. Imagine diving deep into the minds of experts who live and breathe football, sharing insights that you won't find anywhere else.